Alrighty then. Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's quickly talk about the recent rework of Retribution Paladin. I understand there's no music or anything in the background, but our Paladin class tree have been reworked. A lot of the talents have kind of gone to different spots, and a lot of you may be wondering what you should take, what you shouldn't take, etc., where certain buttons have gone, and let's quickly talk about just everything straight down from top down, right? So you can spec into lay on hands. There's no reason not to. This is a given. Immediately afterwards, though, this is the very first one that's slightly new. This is going to give... I mean, it was really good in PTR when it was 100% increased armor for 30 seconds, and now it's only 30% increased armor for 8 seconds, which is a significant nerf. However, it's still potentially worth taking on massive keys or high level keys where your tank is potentially getting a little bit, pummeled, if you will. Cleanse toxins. What I will say about all of the tree so far, though, outside of just the fact that it's been reworked, is there is a lot of extra points that you can place into to get certain things. There's only a few things from here, from a Ret Paladin's damage perspective, that would actually affect rat damage. And we're going to go over that, obviously, but outside of that, let's just quickly go through it. Cleanse toxins, absolutely. This is almost like a free point. If you're in a dungeon where you don't have any poison or disease dispels, you can easily take Imperial Ward, which is the Lay on Hands talent, or you can take the shorter cooldown on Blind or Repentance. And then plus, more than likely, you're just going to be taking Blind most of the time anyway. Very quickly, Fists of Justice. This actually puts Hammer of Justice's cooldown to 30 seconds. It says reduced by 15 seconds, but that's on top of the base 15-second cooldown reduction that Hammer of Justice had already gotten, so it's actually going to give you a 30-second Hammer of Justice. It's super, super good. You should almost take this on every dungeon, because you're going to be potentially hodge twice per pack, which is actually super, super good. Here is the Blinding Light, Repentance. That's pretty straightforward. More than likely, you're just going to say Blind and Light. None of the Turn Evil talents are that useful. You may take Turn Evil for like Necrotic Wake if your spec or if your group doesn't have a way to CC the Scout or Mage on the second boss. Then we're going through, and while Ret Paladin generally doesn't have to do a lot of healing, a lot of our healing is kind of just passive through various means, but they've kind of taken away a lot of that and then put them into other buttons. For example, this one, right? So if you dispel something, you can get a very small heal. I mean, 100k, that's nothing, right? So you'd pretty much never take this. Then we have After Image and Healing Hands. Healing Hands is almost too good to kind of give up. Healing Hands is going to allow you to play far more aggressively with Lay on Hands and Word of Glories without actually feeling like those buttons are not nearly doing as much as they potentially could be, right? Divine Steed, fairly given. 45-second charge. We talked about this. Reduce cooldown. Judgment damage. This is almost required. You just take this. It's Greater Judgment. This is required. That's it. For Ret Paladin, it's going to do more damage. Great. Kick. Straightforward. And then Improved Kick. Again, you just have so many extra points that a lot of these points, like previously where you wouldn't take because you were kind of starved for points in the bottom half of the talent tree. But now, look at this, there's practically nothing. So this is what you would do. The Consecrated Ground, pretty useful for tanks in M+, when they have to kite or whatever else it is that you need to actually get done. Divine Toll, it's got a new icon, fairly straightforward, nothing's changed here. You still want the reverberations rather than the shorter cooldown. Blessing of Sacrifice. There is an interesting Blessing of Sacrifice that you can throw on. I would still run 1 minute Blessing of Sacrifice under most circumstances. There is an argument to use Recompense and something else, and it's a little bit dodgy, but we're going to discuss it when we get to it. Blessing of Sacrifice, very easy, straightforward. Damage reduction, you should almost always take this. Bob is not nearly that useful anymore, so I'm not taking Bob nearly as much. Obduracy. This used to be all the way up here, and now it's just kind of like a node along the way, and this is almost always taken. We love that. That's great. This is going to slightly increase our speed, as well as give us a tiny bit of avoidance. 2% avoidance is actually pretty decent. We'd like that. This is a non-talent. Who cares? It's just 20 yards. It does not matter. Forbearance with duration, again, another non-talent. Who cares? Does not matter. Just, it's so silly. I don't know why these are even talent points. Okay. Coming down, crit strike increased by 4%. I mean, armor and crit strike, but again, Ret Paladin does not care about armor really that much. Crit strike, absolutely necessary. This is a necessity. You need this for all content, all the time, always. 4% is so good. Here we have Recompense, again, same thing, that hasn't really changed. Now, this is something that's actually quite interesting. There are certain situations where you might consider taking Sacred Strength over Divine Purpose. Now, under ideal play, I think Divine Purpose is better, because it's going to allow you to actually press Hammer of Light without spending 5 Holy Power, which is actually a fairly good thing. Generally, however, if you feel like you are actually struggling to do that when those two procs kind of line up, right? And if you feel like you just want to kind of streamline everything, Sacred Strength is probably going to be not that much of a DPS downgrade. A lot of our damage is actually through spenders, right? So that Hammer of Light is a spender, Final Verdict is a spender, so just those two getting a 2% buff is actually probably going to give you a few, some points. I would still encourage you guys to play with Divine Purpose. That's probably the way to go. Improved Blessing of Protection, not at all necessary. Unbreakable Spirit, this is pretty useful. I mean, 30% reduction on all of your defensives, cooldown reduction, right? Pretty useful. You want that. That's pretty good. And then we get into a lot of these, like, kind of minor things that, I mean, I guess, right? These are talents, sure. And you can see a lot of the bottom half of the tree outside of, like, these points, and even some of the bottom like, keystone nodes, still kind of like, but you can clearly tell these are far more designed towards holy and protection, which is fine, right? Like, I'm not that bothered. Judgment of Light, this used to be very, very useful. Again, the heal is just so tiny. It doesn't make a difference for us. Divine Protection, healing increased by 15% for the 8-second duration, fine. 15% movement speed on top of all the blessings, again, fine. This is on top of the 30-second movement speed that you would get. with Blessing of Freedom, by the way. So you would stack to 45% movement speed. Not really all that necessary. There's also the Steed. It also puts Blessing of Freedom on you, so it actually actively makes your Divine Steed 15% more move speed as well. Again, completely unnecessary. These are just like small nodes that don't really do a whole lot. This actually isn't... Again, just another like very passive healing kind of node. Not that useful. Not that useful. Okay, here we go. This is the one that... this talent is the one that's like, oh, maybe this is a gimmicky way to get just a tiny bit of damage out. Now, if you really, really wanted, like, just the tiniest bit more damage, you can do something like... Oops, sorry. You can go... Sacrifice, Blessing of Sacrifice, with Recompense, and then Worthy Sacrifice, right? So that your Blessing of Sacrifice just instantly casts on somebody, you don't ever have to think about it, and you yourself would practically never press practically never press Blessing of Sacrifice, but it's going to actually net you a tiny bit more damage. But you're just kind of going all the way through and doing all these things to get maybe just the tiniest bit more damage, and I just don't think it's worth it. The other alternative for that choice node is that it removes and prevents, specifically, all poison and disease spells. Not that useful again, because you can just dispel it anyway. But the thing about this is that it prevents all poison and dispel disease effects. This could be useful in certain situations, in certain dungeons. Other than, like, I can't really come up with them off the top of my head at the moment, unfortunately. But, you could run that, I guess. Well, I don't know why you would. Again, a non-node. This is just a 3% passive movement speed node, from my perspective at least. Divine Steed reduces 4 nearby allies' major movement ability by 3 seconds. So I guess it could be useful for things like Ice Flows, or I reckon like Nature's Guidance or something like that, or Celestial Guidance, sorry. Could be useful? I don't know. It's only 3 seconds. I don't think it's worth it that much. This can be used. 2% of maximum health is useful. So if you feel like, say, you don't want to run minute sack, and you don't feel like you are pressing sacrifice, Blessing of Sacrifice nearly as much, you can run Lifeforged Blessing and get maybe a little bit more throughput in terms of... And this will just help out your healer a tiny bit more. I'd personally go over 1 minute sack. It just makes me feel a little bit better about the tank, who's kind of dictating the pace of your dungeon, right? Whereas the healer is kind of there to kind of keep up, make sure everybody's topped up, and 2% maximum HP, it's not nothing. However, it's not a lot. It might seem like a lot, but you can look at your overall healing done at the end of dungeons to kind of guide, gauge whether or not this is going to be more healing done rather than the prevented damage that Blessing of Sacrifice might be doing, right? Word of Glory, 20% bonus armor. Not too shabby. It's fine. But again, you're pressing Word of Glory that is now taking away from your ability to press spenders. Definitely more of a pro or holy talent. Stun effects. This is just the PvP talent. It doesn't matter to us. Who cares? Not an M+ anyway. Stun duration. Doesn't matter. This is required. Seal of Might. This used to be one of the lead-in nodes. Now it's closer to the bottom. Required. You want to run this under all circumstances, no matter what. Auto attack healing. I mean, that's not nothing, right? This is just, again, another source of gradual, slow healing. Again, case is probably closer towards Prot and... Sorry, I was reading chat there for a moment. Doesn't matter. Vengeful Wrath. So this actually got a 10% increased damage from the previous version. However, it did change to 2 points. Although you can see that we have so many points to actually spare. What this ends up being is just that this is just a 10% increased Hammer Wrath damage on 35. And it felt in the previous tree that it was either Vengeful Wrath or Divine Purpose. But now you can clearly see that you can take both now, which is actually fairly significant. Overall, this is going to actually improve your damage a little bit, and this is where a lot of that, like, just extra tiny bit of damage is coming from, right? It doesn't seem like anywhere else that there was a whole lot that's changed, but this bit that changed, very significant. Definitely you should use that. Melee and ranged attackers, this is a pro, for sure. This is just a pro talent. It's Thorns, holy damage Thorns. Meh. Great. Selfless Healer, as well as Golden Path. Again, we never really used to take these in the previous one, and we don't take them now. Nothing's really changed. This is worse than nothing. This is so bad. It's 20,000. Even if you think about it, it's 20,000 healing per second. But you think about how much HP you've got, right? 6 million, 7 million, nearly. 20,000 is absolutely nothing. Flash of Light is crap. Yeah. Oh, great. That's also a non-point. We don't ever take either of those points. Okay. Light's Revocation. Again, this is more like a PvP-oriented one, but it does have this tiny little caveat that says Bubble can now be cast while Forbearance is active. It used to be, and this is definitely more of a PvP thing as well, right? It used to be that back in the day, you had Bop and Lay on Hands that were both off of the GCD as well, and then you could Bubble, right? But it caused issues because Bubble and Lay on Hands and Bop caused forbearances, and the reason why forbearance was added was because of just that interaction, right? You could instantly bop yourself. You could instantly then, like, either you needed to cancel it off or whatever else. You could bubble immediately afterwards. You can lay on hands immediately afterwards. So now really the only thing that actually clash is Blessing of Protection, probably Blessing of Spell Warding. That's probably going to cause that as well. And Lay on Hands. That's the only thing here. This is definitely a PvP talent. Not at all that necessary for us. Same thing over here. Healing done to you from other sources heals up to 4. And notice how it says other sources. So it's not you. If you heal yourself, it doesn't get 10% out. But Lightbearer out, actually, if you have it talented, you are actively going to then be almost a prio target for a lot of these mana efficient heals that's going to be going out throughout the raid or throughout any kind of other content, right? Not bad. You just take that, right? 10% healing done. Not too shabby. And then the final node, this hasn't really changed. It's 3 Holy Power Generators is going to give you a 20% additional damage on your spender. and then a short amount of damage reduction. Not too shabby. Very straightforward, nothing's really changed. And then you can look over on the rat side of the tree. Again, just nothing's strained. I won't be going into any kind of detail here. You guys can see what's going on here. And similarly, not a lot's changed here. There is a lot of people that are just taking Divine Steed for, again, no real gain in a lot of these encounters. You get so much move speed and it lasts already so long, it's 6 seconds, that gaining an extra 30 seconds, not that interesting, right? Whereas this is actually significant. Very, very useful, actually. 20% less damage from Blessing of Sacrifice that you cast yourself. And this is kind of what I was kind of advocating for, right? You want to be using 1 minute sag regularly just to kind of get it out there, try to save somebody, and as a result you take less damage. Absolutely, I'm all for that. So that's it. This is what it currently looks like. I will be posting this exact one, if you guys want to make any changes or whatever else, in the description below. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions, and I will see you guys on probably tomorrow for an episode of Pugtails, as well as potentially a short stream towards the end of the night. And then Thursday is going to be our Kaiveza kill. We've already killed it, I just forgot to record it, that's my fault. And yeah, good luck.